Good morning, Australia. Welcome to the show. Coustas. No, I'm wrong, aren't I? How do you say how are you in Greek?
Tikanis, and in your case, Kalimera Australia. Good morning, Australia.
Galimedo?
Kalimera Australia.
You have to shout too. Galimedo Australia.
Yes, you need the upper inflection, and you better be very careful because if you say Kalimera wrong, they'll bring you a plate of calamari.
Is that? Oh, fair enough. So I think I'll just say good morning, Australia. Welcome to the show. And the two beautiful people are here this morning, Mary Coustas and Nick Giannopoulos. Nice to see you, Nick.
Nice to see you too.
Wonderful to see you, Mary. Looking beautiful as always. She's a beautiful girl, isn't she?
She is a beautiful girl. And I think she looks better now than she ever has before.
Did you, the two of you, were you ever sort of, how's your father? No?
Oh, look, we're... No, yeah, no... Hang on, who provides your questions?
No, I
that was a good opening question,
yes.
Straight off the bat.
But is it true? I mean, were you boyfriend, girlfriend, or partner, anything at all?
Ooh, lovers. Maybe we were. Maybe we were. Maybe we weren't. I don't know.
No,
I think
just
we
that
were.
when I rang you early this morning, you're both in bed together. I thought, well, maybe you are reasonably close. As I mentioned to you off here, I've watched the movie twice over the weekend on Foxtel, and it's transferred terrifically to television. You must be thrilled with that.
I am thrilled. It's that film. The response I get from people when I walk down the street's amazing. It's, hey, Wog Boy!
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, I tried to get away from Wog Boy when I was a kid, and it's come back to haunt me for the rest of my life. It's wonderful.
But it must be a great feeling because
it is a great feeling.
As a kid, if someone had told you, now look, I know they're nasty saying Wog Boy, but one day that's going to make you a lot of money and make you famous.
Whoever would have thought, eh?
Yeah.
I noticed Al Grasby's on your show today.
Yes, he is. Yes, he
I was going to say today's the Burt Wog special.
Exactly, and of course, I mean, he being Minister for Immigration back in the Whitlam government. Yes. Did you, with the did it sort of shine what you expected of it? Because it's become one of the greats in terms of box office, hasn't it?
It has. It's I think it's the 12th or 13th highest Australian grossing film of all time. I think Lantana just replaced it a month or two. Eclipsed it.
Yeah.
Yes. I thought that was when the sun came. Yeah.
They were obviously lovers because you noticed that the reaction on the whole thing.
Yeah. No, yeah. So it's a 12th, 13th highest. I'm very proud of it. It's exceeded all our expectations, and it's very hard to follow it up now.
How's the new one coming along? Are you
great, Bert. We start shooting in October.
Wonderful.
It's not Wog Boy 2, as I've said on your show before.
Yeah.
I'm very, very excited about it. The script's come leaps and bounds since we last spoke.
Have you cast it yet?
Not casting, but it looks like I'll be directing this one.
And starring in it? And
starring in it. So I'm about to take the big leap. Yeah, wish me luck.
Well, good luck. Who directed Wog Boy?
Alexi Velas. Yeah. So, it's interesting. I noticed Tony Martin's just directed his first film, and Mick Malloy has just directed his film. So it seems to be all us kind of like comedy people from the late 80s, early 90s have kind of moved into directing.
This is the time, yeah. And of course, the great thing is that that Acropolis now is on DVD.
Yes, Acropolis now is coming out when, Mary?
In August, second week of August, and it's the entire first series, and it's over 3 DVDs, and there's special commentary, and there's special bits that the audience hasn't seen, and it's going to be pretty exciting because our audience have been incredibly devoted to Acropolis, and the tapes that they taped it off the telly.
It's a cult thing too.
Have worn out.
It's a cult show. Look, we've had so many requests for it on DVD. It's finally here, and we're very excited about it because it's such a microcosm of what Australia was like. I mean, you talk about Al Grasby, and he's very much what Australia was like in the mid-70s.
Yeah.
Acropolis now is very much a microcosm of multiculturalism in Australia in the late 80s, early 90s. The tight jeans and the furry dice and the Monaros and, of course, famous Effie hair,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great period, and if you want to go back and relive it all, I mean, it's all there on DVD. I even had a mullet.
Yeah, sure. Well, I saw your car too, so, I mean, you've still got the dice and the furry things.
Yeah.
It's great to see you both. We'll talk more in just a few moments about that and much, many other things that can be happening in the lives of Mary and Nick. Please welcome officially Mary and Nick to GMA this morning. The advantage, of course, with DVD, and as Mary described it, it's the whole of the first series, and it really is an opportunity in terrific quality to have a bit of history in your library.
And there's commentary running under it that Nick and I did, which is really good because it fills in a lot of the gaps and a lot of the questions that I'm sure the fans would want answered.
We hadn't seen the show in years, and we went back recently to Crawford's to do the commentary, and it was absolutely... I mean, the show holds up so well. I mean, there's me in my mullet and tight jeans, there's George Campagnaro, there's Mimo. I mean, everyone in Australia at some stage watched this show or was a fan of this show. I mean, it's one of the few successful Australian sitcoms.
Yep.
And that in itself is a part of Australian television history. As you know, Bert, for some reason in Australia, we haven't been able to do sitcoms successfully.
Why not? I mean, you managed to do it with this. What's the problem?
I think the problem is we haven't got... I mean, the Americans have got so much more money and so many more writers. Mary and I were very fortunate in the early 90s to go and sit on the set of Cheers, the fabulous American sitcom which ran for 10 years. And Mary, how many writers did they have on that set?
There must have been 8 writers, and what they do also is they sit there and they watch a run-through and they laugh. Like, you think it's a sort of an ego thing, because they sit there and they go, ha ha, ha, after each gag, just to show the actors where the gags are.
And the timing.
So, yeah, that they get the timing right on the night, and then they go back and rewrite jokes during the day and come back with new scripts, and it's really
enormous
full-on.
amounts of money. And we've never had the money... also, I don't know if Australian television has ever kind of... been right for the sitcom formula. I think it's a very American formula.
Yeah.
So I think the reason why shows like Hey Dad and shows like Acropolis worked is because they were intrinsically Australian. Jim, Mimo and Effie, even though they're all obviously from a Greek background, were very much Australian characters.
Exactly.
I mean, Effie, Mary went on to win the Logie in 1993, was it?
I think it was.
93, yes, as most outstanding Australian comedy performer. And the reason for that being is that the Australian public loved her as an Australian comedy performer. Not as a Greek performer, and that was the appeal of the show. It appealed to everybody.
I think when sitcom starts becoming about the predictability of the setups, because we all know how it works, I think when you go against that and you're really raw with it, or when you play character as opposed to just like the funny line, if you really take a sort of character perspective on that, I think it's got a good chance of working in Australia. But most of the time we follow the formula too closely.
I think I've got another theory too. I think it was a great show, but it came on air at a time when we were moving into the totally politically correct, and you guys were anything but that. And it was just I think most people believe that political correctness has gone too far down the line.
Bert, the funniest laugh my dad ever got was when you appeared on Don Lane as Demis Roussos.
Really?
Yeah, my dad was in stitches when and so I mean, you talk about political correctness. There's you playing one of the Greek idols.
And there's only 3 of them. And one's Mexican.
That's right. Who's Mexican?
Anthony Quinn.
Oh, that's right. Yes, of course he is Mexican too. But he used to go along for the ride, didn't he?
Well,
It was a very good ride too.
Actually, Mary and I have gone along for the ride too. My eyebrow will be coming off next year.
Fair enough.
I've had a very good ride.
So you're Scandinavian, really?
Yeah.
Talking about Demis, he ruined that act particularly for me because he came back a second time and he'd lost in the old language about 7 stone.
And he wears a suit, so he doesn't have that sort of Colleen McCulloch look anymore either.
That's right. Did you go to see his concert at the festival hall?
Mate, it was compulsory.
But were you there the night when the piano started before he started playing?
No, what happened?
Well, he was miming, quite a bit of the stuff because he's one of those performers who always has a sore throat. So I don't know where I can go on, but perhaps I should mime. And he does a little piano bit, for 16 bars. And he was then, the full bulk of thing. And he finished the chorus and a half, and then moved across to the piano, and the tinkling started before he got there. Well, there were 7,000 Greeks. I thought they were going to storm the stage and kill him. They suddenly tweaked.
I launched the Foxtel antenna channel, the Greek channel, and Alex Dimitriadis and I were at this particular big function, and the special guest was Demis Roussos, and Alex was so over the top excited, he had his camera and everything. Anyway, they introduced Demis, and he came out, and he mimed so badly, and then he didn't realise until the 3rd song to put the hand here to sort of mask the bad miming, and so Alex had run up onto the stairs and started taking shots for about 3 or 4 seconds, and then thought, he's miming. And then afterwards, we were so disappointed. Like, we were just standing there to do a photo shoot with him, and it was, like, silent. No one was saying anything. And then I just thought, oh, well, I better make some conversation. So I said, Demis, maybe Alex and I will bump into you in Athens sometime. And he said, I don't live in Athens. And I said, oh, well, where do you live? And he said, I live in Paris. And then I got a little upset with him. And I said, well, maybe we'll find you in Paris then.
What did he say?
And that was it. That was our big exchange.
He walked off.
And Alex's face was like, oh, man, that was the worst night of my life. I can't believe it. I'm so disappointed.
Yeah. You guys have got a terrific reputation for sounding things for kids and all that sort of jazz. And probably you've had an experience when you were a kid, before you were well known, of probably asking somebody and they refuse. And it's the sort of thing that kids never forget,
I know. I don't see the point in refusing something like that. It takes a split second. It makes somebody's day. I mean, it's part of the responsibility of being well known.
It's important. When people approach me on the street, I always try to be nice. I mean, sometimes it's difficult, but, you know, in the middle of your shopping, you know, and your tracky decks.
Mm.
But you've got to take the time out, especially for younger kids, because they don't forget. I mean, I remember, like, someone from the Young Doctors coming into my milk bar when I was 7 years old. And I still remember this actor to this day, coming in and buying a packet of Winfields off me, you know what I mean? I mean, I remember the strangest things. I'm meeting you when I was a very young kid. Not that young, but not that young. I mean, that always made me... Meeting Kerry Armstrong...
What were my words to you? Do you recall what I said?
Yes, you said, get out of my way.
Yeah, that's
You know what Steve Martin does, though? I don't know whether you've heard this story. He's got a card that says, this is to be used as evidence that you have met me. Or, you know, something, a funnier version of that, which he just passes out because he gets sick of just doing the autograph.
Jerry Seinfeld said once, one of the reasons that he always does an autograph, Michelle Van Ray, one of our second producers, was in Los Angeles a couple of years ago. She saw him, said hello, and he was quite nice to her. Then he moved away. But he then came back to her and said, look, I'm sorry, you might have wanted to photograph. I see a camera there. Would you? And she said, oh, lovely. So I didn't want to be rude, but I had to get something with her. So he had the photograph taken. And I read after that when he was a kid, he was walking down Fifth Avenue or whatever, and coming out of one of the hotels there was an actor called Raymond Massey. And he walked up and said, oh, Mr. Massey, I'm wondering if I could have your autograph. And he said, not now. And kept moving. And Seinfeld, eventually when he made it, thought, I'll never be guilty of that, because I know how I felt on that day.
Well, that's how you made me feel, Bert.
Yes. But you see, there was a charge back then, and I wasn't allowed to sign autographs unless Don was in my company.
Don Lane, Kerry Armstrong, they all gave me theirs.
You were going to say Kerry Armstrong. What happened
Well,
to
she was
Kerry
a weather
Armstrong?
girl on Channel 9.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I'll never forget Kerry. She was very young then, about 17 years old, and I used to collect money for Urella.
Yep.
Only so I can get into the Channel 9 studios, because I lived in Richmond, and I was fascinated by Channel 9. I absolutely loved it. I mean, in those days there was you and Graham, and it was the most amazing place. And I remember just lining up with my tin, you know, and they used to cut open the tins and take the money out.
Yeah.
And Kerry happened to be standing there, and I said, oh, Miss Armstrong, can I have an autograph? She gave me the autograph, and years later she came to the opening of the Wog Boy. And I reminded her of it on that, you know, on that very night.
Yeah.
And she said, my God, it made such an impression on you. I said, I've never forgotten it.
Yeah.
And for that very reason, I never refused autographs either.
Well, I remember her, when she used to come and do the weather, she used to come in school uniform.
Yes.
And go into a dressing room, take it off and put the thing in, then Crystal would go in and put the school uniform on. No. But she used to get into these...
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is that Elton John song, Crystal, about Crystal?
I've got a feeling it might be. I've got a feeling it might be.
I'm a good detective.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking late series around the same time, you know.
Yeah, I think there's one that he might have done perhaps for Molly too. I'm not too sure. I can't think of the name of the song now,
well,
but I think it was for Molly Meldrum. Yeah, it's great to have you both here. Now, DVD is out in August.
Mid-August, second week of August, the whole first series on 3 DVDs with all, you know, fabulous accessories and bits.
Wonderful.
Yes, it's one.
Bits and bobs.
Yeah, and then by Christmas it's going to be. It's like every episode we've ever done. Series 1. August, and then Series 2 a couple of months later, and Series 2. And the great thing about DVD now is that all these cult shows, I mean, I went into one of those record shops the other day, and they're all there.
Yeah.
Isn't it fabulous?
Yeah.
And it's you can search for chapters immediately. It seems to be like the perfect little piece of technology for things like cult shows and stuff like Acropolis now. So it's very timely.
Well, good luck for that. And I believe this little chat might be used in some way.
Actually,
for...
yes.
For
we haven't chatted that much about the Acropolis nowadays.
Yeah. Oh, no, we'll do that. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, we should just say that Hector Crawford, God bless him, who I know you're a big fan of
course
as well.
I am. Yeah.
And I must say this, our careers are probably indebted to him in a huge way, because I tell you my favourite Hector Crawford story, and you know the story, Mary. We were doing Wogs Out of Work, and Hector had heard about us, and Wogs Out of Work was like the biggest show in Australia at that stage, and we were at the Athenaeum Theatre in Collins Street. And God bless him, he was getting to be a little bit ill in those days. But he nevertheless got into his limo and came over to the Ath and saw the show, and we're all waiting for him after the show. I mean, in those days, to meet Hector Crawford was a huge thing. We're all waiting backstage, myself and Simon Palomares and Neri, and Hector comes backstage and says, you know, he said, I didn't understand a word of it, but I loved it.
Isn't that beautiful?
And I'll never forget it to this day, because he unfortunately had the throat problem.
He's a great man.
He got us into the Crawford's office the next week, the boardroom, the huge boardroom with all the Logies and all the awards, and it was an amazing room to sit in, you know. And he literally signed us up that day.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. Until this day, we still haven't got any royalties, but we still...
Fair enough.
It doesn't.
So
He's a great businessman.
This could be promotional, could it? Even the very... I'll be in it and all that sort of
Yes,
thing.
you will be in it. In fact, you know what? I want you to be in my next film. I've told you.
Oh, yes. I play myself, don't I?
You play yourself.
Which is not easy, but I'll try.
Can you do that for me?
Yeah, sure. Well done.
You're in my film.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick. We didn't... Anyway, that's OK. It'll get to... And I'll do a little down the barrel bit, you know, for you for the promotion.
Thank you.
This is Bert Newton, and quite frankly, my two favourite performers in Australia have always been George Giannopoulos and Giannopoulos. Please thank Mary Coustas and Giannopoulos. Great to see you, my friend. Mary, you're always beautiful.